Hey everybody, the Cape Coral real estate market is heading in a really interesting directions, and you are in the right place to find out what those directions are. This is the first week of June 2025, and that means it's time for the monthly Cape Coral real estate market report. I do one of these videos every single month. We're going to dive deep into the numbers and the facts and the statistics of the Cape Coral residential real estate market, specifically focusing on the numbers that were put up this past month. So we're going to be looking at numbers from May 2025. I'm going to give you kind of an overview of everything, and then we'll really start to break things down into individual categories. We'll look at non-waterfront single-family homes. We'll look at, of course, Gulf access homes. We'll look at condos and townhomes, and then we'll finish up by looking at vacant residential lots, and then I'll finish this entire video up by giving you some advice if maybe you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market in 2025, or maybe if you're a seller in a little bit tougher Cape Coral real estate market right now. So make sure you stick around for those. If you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I'm a longtime resident of Cape Coral in Southwest Florida, and I've been a full-time real estate broker here for almost 20 years now. And again, I do one of these videos every single month. These are the Cape Coral long-form real estate market update videos, but these are in addition to just weekly videos where I give you some really great information and look at some fun, interesting real estate. So if you're interested in Southwest Florida, if you're considering moving to Cape Coral or moving to Fort Myers or moving to Punta Gorda or something like that, I'm going to invite you to reach up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Just try to give you a lot of great information on these weekly videos and try to provide some value for you. I figure if I can do that, then the odds are you are going to remember me when the time does come and you do need a realtor in Cape Coral or Southwest Florida, anywhere. And of course, my contact information is right there on the screen. It's also down in the description of this video, and you can call, text, or email me anytime. I would love to hear from you and love to find out about your real estate goals and tell you how my team and I can help you out with those. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the June Cape Coral real estate market update. I always start off these videos just for fun by showing you the lowest sales of the month in a few different categories and the highest sales of the month in a few different categories. And again, we're going to be talking about things that happened in May 2025. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start off with the lowest sales of the month for the entire city of Cape Coral in May of 2025. Okay, so the lowest sales of the month of May 2025, this is for the entire city of Cape Coral in a few different categories. We're going to look at the lowest condo sale, and then we'll look at the lowest single-family home sale, and then we'll look at the lowest Gulf access home sale. I know a lot of the folks that watch this channel are interested in Gulf access homes, and certainly we talk about that a lot on this channel. But let's go ahead and get started with the lowest condo sale of the month of May for the entire city of Cape Coral. That's this one over here in the southeast section of Cape Coral, 4906 Victoria Drive, Unit 106. That's in the Capeway condo complex. It's a mid-rise, 55 and older, age-restricted condo community over there. And this one didn't look really all that bad. It was a smaller unit, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, just under 750 square feet of living area. And it was on the market a while, about 7 months. And, or excuse me, about 5 months, a little bit under 5 months. But it was listed at $109,000 and ended up selling right at the end of May for $90,000 cash. That's a pretty decent price. We haven't seen that price tick underneath $100,000 very much in the last few years, but we did get to that $90,000 mark under $100K this past month. And congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on that condo. Typically, we see these age-restricted condos sell for just a little bit less. When you have that age restriction there, sometimes the marketability of those condos are such that the prices are just a little bit lower. But $90,000 is a really decent price, even for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath condo there in a really great area of the southeast Cape Coral. And so congrats to the buyers and the sellers on the lowest condo sale of the month, $90,000. All right, let's jump over to the lowest single-family home sale of the month. Typically, we see some damaged properties, some things like that. I don't include any of the unfinished homes. We do have some unfinished homes that are transferring, homes that just have bare walls or something like that. They haven't been fully constructed yet, so I'm not including those. Those are obviously pretty cheap. But the lowest single-family home sale was well under $150,000 this month. It's this one over here, 1168 Pine Lake Drive That's in the Pondella Heights neighborhood. It's right kind of on the edge of Cape Coral and North Fort Myers over there. But this smaller home, it was a wood frame home, which is a little bit of an inferior construction method. Most of our homes here, because of the hurricanes, are concrete block. But this home was a wood frame home built in 1964, and small one, but it's actually 4 bedrooms and 2 full baths, and a little bit over 1,200 square feet of living area inside. And this home was listed at $185,000. It was only on the market for about 2.5 weeks, and it sold. I think they found plenty of stuff to do in there. There was quite a bit of work, obviously, that needed to be done to this old place. But listed at $185,000, sold for $135,000 cash, and I'm sure it had to be cash considering the condition that it was in. But $135,000, I think, is the lowest single-family home, even the damaged ones like this, that we've seen in quite a while. And even though this is a wood frame home, that's a pretty decent price for a single-family home these days. $135,000. So definitely congratulations to the buyers and the sellers. I'm sure the buyers have their work cut out for them there, but they got a really good price on that home over there on Pine Lake Drive. $135,000 was the lowest single-family home sale of the month of May. All right, let's finish up with the lowest Gulf access home sale. Again, when I'm talking Gulf access, I'm talking about the home sits on a body of water that has boating access out to the Gulf of America. So it's either on a canal, more than likely, or it's directly on the river or something like that. But this is another really damaged property, and if you're a subscriber to this channel, you probably recognize this property because I included it on a video of the cheapest Gulf access homes in the entire city a few weeks ago. This home is again in the southeast, 1312 Southeast 42nd Street. This is a foreclosure, believe it or not, and we still haven't seen very many foreclosures in a long time, and there's still not a lot out there. But this one was, and this one was completely gutted. It needed a ton of work. It needed a new roof. The roof decking on it was all ate up. It had obviously been open to the elements for quite a while, and it was listed at $225,000. That caused a bidding war to get involved in this. This property got bid up to $250,000. It sold $25,000 over list price, and it was just over 1,500 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, built in 1972. It's in a good area over there in the Country Club neighborhood, Country Club Boulevard, right across from the park. So I really like this property, but man, even $250,000, there was a lot of work to be done. But congratulations to the buyers and the sellers. Those buyers have a lot of work ahead of them in redoing that house and the dock and everything else that was there. But still, $250,000. We haven't really seen too many Gulf access homes this last year or so get under the $300,000 mark. So that's why you saw that property get bid up from $225,000 to $250,000 cash. And congrats to the buyers and the sellers on that foreclosure sale. That was the lowest Gulf access home sale of the entire month of May for all of Cape Coral. All right, let's jump over to the fun ones, and that's the highest sales of the month. We had some really good ones this month. Let's jump into it. All right, so the highest sales of the month of May for the entire city of Cape Coral. We'll follow a similar format to that last one. We'll do the highest condo sale, and then I'll show you the highest non-Gulf access home sale. Usually the highest sale is always a Gulf access home. They're just obviously a little more expensive than traditional properties, off-water properties. So we'll look at the highest non-Gulf access home sale, and then we'll finish up with the highest overall. And I think we had about 8 or 9 homes this past month that sold over the $2 million mark. So it's a pretty good month for higher sales. But let's start off with the highest condo sale of the month of May, and that's over here in Cape Harbor. Cape Harbor took the cake on a couple categories for these high sales. This one is one of the penthouse units in one of the high-rise buildings there in Cape Coral in the Southwest Cape. Great, fantastic neighborhood at the end of Chiquita, if you're not familiar with that. CapeHarbor.net is a website that my business partner and I run. I invite you to go to CapeHarbor.net and check out those properties because there's some beautiful homes over there. But nevertheless, the penthouse unit, 15th floor unit, 5781 Cape Harbor Drive, unit 1509. This home was on the market on and off for over a year, but this was a 2-bedroom plus a den, with 2 full baths. These high rises were built in 2006, and this had incredible views over there. It was on the corner of the building. It was listed at $749,000, and believe it or not, that ended up selling for $595,000. And typically we've seen some of these condo sales, especially in Tarpon Point, another really great neighborhood in the Southwest, get up over $1 million, in some cases over $1.5 million. But this was a lower month for condo sales. Only $595,000 was the highest condo sale of the month. Just over 1,700 square feet. It was sold fully furnished, and obviously something was going on there for that that price, that final sale price, to get so far underneath the just over $150,000 underneath the list price. And we still haven't seen these list prices. We're not seeing a lot of big discounts off of these list prices. Once they get priced right, properties on average are selling over 97% of the list price. So for this one to have a pretty big discount there, there maybe was something found in the inspection. I'm just not really sure, but it was sold $595,000, and definitely congrats to the buyers and the sellers. $595 is a great price for one of those penthouse corner units there in that beautiful community of Cape Harbor Drive. So congrats to those folks. Okay, let's look at the highest non-golf access home sale. So again, this is just anything that's not on a golf access body of water, not on a golf access canal or on the river or something like that. And we did get north of $1 million. We did just last month, we got north of $1 million on this category. And this property was one of the most unique properties I think I've seen in a long, long time. But check this out, 1195 Rose Garden Road. That's in the Rose Garden community, or neighborhood rather, down there close to Tarpon Point, but this is not in Tarpon Point. It's in the Southwest Cape as well. This home is incredible. It was built in 2010, had some just really unique decorative items in there and fixtures and things like that, multicolored, had some European style to it. But this was a huge property. This sat on almost a full acre, and a normal Cape Coral lot is only about 1/4 of an acre. So this is about 4 times the size of a normal Cape Coral lot. And it was a huge property built in 2010, super modern, super custom, 6,639 square feet. It had 9 bedrooms. And had a huge parking area, garage area for like an RV and all sorts of things like that. It's just a really super unique property. But this one was listed at $1.247 million. It was on the market for just under 2 months, 51 days, before it finally sold at $1 million. And the discount on this one makes a little bit more sense, because it's just, coming from a realtor's perspective, it's darn near impossible to accurately price a property like this, because there's really nothing to compare it to. There's nothing else out there that had an acre with 6,700 square feet, 9 bedrooms, built in 2010. So super unique property, and it did get right at $1 million is where it sold at, right at the end of May. So congratulations to the buyers and the sellers. If it's a 10-car garage attached to that place, it was just a really super unique property, obviously, and it's neat to see one of these types of homes transfer there in May. And $1 million was the highest non-golf access home sale of the month for the entire city of Cape Coral. All right, let's do the really fun one. That's the highest sale of the month. Again, there was 8 or 9 properties that sold for over $2 million this past month. And this is the highest one here. Again, we're back in the Southwest Cape. We're back at Cape Harbor. This time we're in one of the single-family gated communities there in Cape Harbor. And this one was right on the corner on a little peninsula, had a ton of waterfront. But this one at 5769 Stay Sail Court there in Harbor Preserve, in the Harbor Preserve section of Cape Harbor. 4 bedrooms plus a den, 4 and 1/2 baths. Was built in 2012, so it's not a brand new property, and just over 3,200 square feet of living area. It obviously had an absolutely incredible outdoor living space out there, and some serious luxury upgrades in this home. And it looked across that direct golf access canal at that mangrove preserve that's on the other side of the spreader canal from Cape Harbor. But this was a really impressive custom home built by Kugler Homes back in 2012. And it was listed at $3 million, but it was only on the market for 11 days before it sold for $2.7 million. And again, one of these properties, it's just really difficult to pinpoint exactly where that price point needs to be. So it makes a lot of sense that a home like this would be listed at $3 million and sell for 2.7. That's about 10% under the list price, even at only being on the market for 11 days. Sometimes it's tough to find exactly what that market value is going to be for a home like this. But on a third of an acre over there, really, really top-notch, incredible property. So congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on that. That's going to wrap up the highest sales of the month of May for the entire city of Cape Coral. So now we're going to go ahead and dive into the statistics of the real estate market here in Cape Coral. And we'll start off, as we always do, with some general stats, and then we'll start to break these down into different categories. So let's start off with the entire market statistics for May 2025 for Cape Coral, Florida. Okay, so again, we're going to start off with the broad overall statistics of the entire residential Cape Coral real estate market. It takes into consideration everything that's basically a residential unit, so all the condos, all the single-family homes, regardless if they're on water or off water, everything together, and then we'll start to break these down into some different categories. And I'm going to use a couple different metrics if you're not familiar with this, the way I do these videos, but we're going to look at a few different metrics. And we'll start off with the total number of sales for the entire month of May for the entire city of Cape Coral in terms of residential units. And in May, we sold 573 properties. That's up, actually, from April's number. We only sold 548 in April, down a little bit from March. March was our high point for the year so far at 598. But 573 total sales for the month of May 2025 is a fairly strong number. We're a little bit off pace of where we were this time last year. Last May in 2024, we had sold 619 properties, and the year before that, in 2023, in May of that year, we sold 600. So we're a little bit short of the pace that we had been selling properties the last couple of years, but demand is overall still reasonably strong. We're not matching last year's numbers, but we're still putting up quite a bit. And actually, if you look at the first 5 months of this year compared to the first 5 months of 2024, last year we had sold 2,578 properties by the end of May, and this year we're at 2,396. So we're 182 properties shy of the pace that we set last year, and that represents about 7% less demand this year versus last year. And you know, last year was a pretty strong demand. I think we had a decent year last year. So for us to only be down about 7% in spite of all the kind of chaos that's happened in the last year with interest rates and with the election and everything like that, we're still doing fairly well as a real estate market. We're going to talk about the inventory in a minute, but you know, you look at these numbers and you feel pretty good about them, but go back to 2022 when things were just absolutely haywire. And the first 5 months of 2022, there was 3,367 residential sales by that point. So we're about 29% away from the demand of that high point in 2022 when the prices were going crazy and all that kind of stuff. So 573 is certainly nothing to shake a stick at for the number of sales in March. And again, not too bad for 2025 to start the year, the first 5 months. Let's talk about the median price now. So median price, again, this takes into consideration everything from that $90,000 condo sale all the way up to that $2.7 million beautiful custom Gulf access home. So take all those and line them up. Right in the middle was $360,000, and that's down about $9,000 from the previous month in April. April's median price was $369,000. And obviously, you can tell by this chart, this is a 2-year chart, a little bit over 2 years. It goes back to January of 2023. We obviously have been just kind of slowly descending in price. The prices have been softening with this extra inventory that we've got out there. We're still selling a lot of properties, but certainly they're being outpaced by the inventory. We'll talk about that here next. But $360,000 was the median price last month. If you go back to 2024, in May of 2024, that number was $390,000. So we're a full 7.7% less on the median price now than we were this time last year. The average property is selling for about $30,000 less. If you take it back 2 years, that pace has been actually fairly consistent. 2 years ago, in January of 2023, the median price for the entire city of Cape Coral was $410,000. And so that 24-month trend has been going down, and it represents about a 12.2% reduction in overall prices, or an overall correction of about 12.25%. And I tell you, that doesn't factor in some heavier than average inflation numbers. I know we've seen some, even the government's official numbers are relatively high since we came out of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So you factor those in, and we may have already seen a correction of 25%, maybe in some cases. And we'll break this down by some different categories. Some are doing a little bit better than others, but like I said, I wanted to bring up the fact that the median, if you listed all these properties from lowest to highest, the median sale price to list price ratio is still about 97.77%. So these homes are still selling relatively close to full list price once those properties get listed correctly. And once they get, priced accordingly, they do sell fairly quickly, and they do sell for pretty close to list price. So we're not seeing a huge number of properties get sharply discounted off that list price, but we're finding that that some of these sellers, it's taking longer for them to kind of come to the realization that they need to price that property at a certain price point. We'll talk about all that here in just a little bit, but let's talk about the big factor that has been on everyone's mind this year, and that is the inventory, the number of active listings that are on the market at any given time. Take a look at this 2-year graph, 2.5-year graph. We made some real progress, and if you watched last month's video, I kind of hinted that I was expecting this to happen, but we're coming out of that really high peak season of the spring. The first couple of quarters are always much heavier on all metrics, so that we're higher usually in the number of sales that we have, but we're also higher in the number of properties that are listed for sale. And once we get out of that summer, generally speaking, that comes down, and we really needed to see some relief, and we got it in a pretty decent way. We got some more work to do, but check this out. 4,451 properties were on the market at some point active during the month of May. This doesn't mean there's 4,451 properties actively listed right now. It just means that somewhere along that month, there was an active property there was 4,451 active listings at one point or another. So some of those came off, some of them sold, some of them went pending, things like that. And actually I looked at it this morning, there's only 3,600 active properties on the market in Cape Coral right now completely. So, 850 or whatever it is less than this number, but this chart will at least give you an idea of what everything looks like out there. But that 4,451 properties is down from April's number of 4,823. So we've made some progress, and actually the peak on this entire chart, which is the peak of this year, was February. Just under 5,000 properties were on the market at some point during February, 4,959 properties. So we are making progress. We're going in the right direction on this extraordinarily high inventory number, and we're not quite back to where we were last year, though. Last year at this time, there was 4,228 properties on the market. So we still got 223 more properties on the market this year versus last year. That represents an increase of about 5.3%. But we were much higher than that in previous months. So, we're heading in the right direction. Like I said, we've got a lot more work to do to get this market back to an equilibrium. But it's nice to see, almost 400 properties come off the market from April to May, and I expect we'll continue to see that trend as we get into June and the later months of the summer. But if you go back to 2 years ago when the market was still pretty hot in 2023, there was only 2,963 properties on the market. So we're still 50% more properties available now versus back then. But again, only 3,600 current actives on the market right now. And as for total days on the market it takes the average property to sell, we're at 111. So again, it's taken these sellers a little bit longer to market these properties, to get them priced right to where they do sell, and they're selling in just under 4 months at 111 days. But that kind of wraps things up for the overall general residential real estate market in Cape Coral. So let's start to break these down into some different categories. I'll start off with the biggest category that we have here in Cape Coral, and that's non-waterfront single-family homes. So single-family homes that are just not on any body of water whatsoever, not Gulf access, not freshwater. We'll start there because, again, that is the biggest category. Let's take a look. Okay, so non-waterfront single-family homes. Again, these are just single-family homes anywhere that are not on a body of water. We're going to follow that same pattern in terms of the metrics that we're looking at. We'll start off with the number of sales in this category. And like I said, this is definitely the biggest category we have. We've got a lot of single-family homes in Cape Coral. We got a lot of waterfront single-family homes in Cape Coral, but there's obviously even more off-water homes. So this category last month, we had 348 of these sales, which was up just very slightly from April's number of 341. The high point so far this year was back in March when 372 of these off-water single-family homes sold. And again, just like in the overall category for the entire market, residential market, we're down a little bit off of last year's pace and last 2 years' pace actually. And actually, the high point the last 2 years was May. So May of 2024 was the highest month for that year in this category, and May of 2023 was the highest month of that year for this category. Last year, in May, we sold 406 of these properties. So, you know, almost 60 more properties last year in this month versus this year. And 2 years ago was pretty similar. 405 of these properties sold in 2023 in May. But again, if we look at the first 5 months of the year, this year compared to the last 2 years, the first 5 months of the year in this category, we sold 1,490 properties. That's about 133 fewer properties than last year's pace. Last year's was 1,623, and the year before that was 1,616. So the 2023 and 2024 were very similar in terms of the level of demand that we saw, but we're down about 8.2% in terms of the demand this year versus the demand last year in this particular category. And let's take a look at the median price for these single-family off-water homes. And we set a new low for this chart, $339,000 is the lowest. This bounces around a little bit just because obviously this takes into consideration everything from that little property over there in Pondella Heights that sold at $135,000, and it also takes into consideration that home that sold for $1 million. So it can jump up and down depending on what's selling in any given month, but $339,000 is the lowest we've seen on this chart. That's down from April's number of $345,500. And if you take this back the last couple of years, you go back to May of 2024, and the median price for this category was $360,000. So that represents a 12-month reduction in overall median prices of about 5.8%, or in other words, the average home is selling for about $21,000 less this year versus the same time last year. And if we take it all the way back to May of 2023, the median price back then was $376,000. So we were getting pretty close to $400,000 for these off-water single-family homes. And that represents about 9.8% reduction in prices in the last 2 years, or about $37,000 less than the average property was 2 years ago. So median prices, it's like I said, as long as we're going to keep this level of inventory up, we'll probably see prices continue to be soft. But it's just been a gradual decline. There hasn't been any reason to suspect that we're falling off the edge of a cliff. We're just needing to get some correction going in this real estate market, and we've done quite a bit of progress in that way from that crazy, almost nonsensical heights of the 2021-22 era where things were going nuts and the prices were getting really, really ridiculous. So it's good to see them come down. They needed to come down and correct a little bit, and that's what we've been seeing in the last 2 years. Let's take a look at the inventory. Again, we took a big drop in the right direction from April to May. And if you take a look at this chart, we had, again, this is just any property, any off-water single-family home that's on the market at any given point during last month. So of those, there was 2,426 active listings at one point or another during May, and that's down from 2,598 back in April. And again, this category mirrors the overall category where it peaked out in February. There was 2,718 properties on the market in February. So we're what's that? Almost 300 properties fewer on the market now versus back in February when everything peaked out. And again, I took a look at just right now the snapshot of how many properties in this category are on the market at the moment. 1,885. So there's a fair amount less than that 2,426, but that's just the way they do these charts on our MLS system. But if you go back 12 months ago to May in 2024, we had just 2,400. So we're almost even to where we were this time last year, which is good considering where we were. That represents we're only about 1% higher than we were 12 months ago. Now, if you go back to May of 2023, when inventories were still low, there was only 1,758 of these properties on the market. So we're still up about 38% in terms of the inventory now versus 2 years ago. But again, there's only 1,885 current actives right now. And again, that's not too bad considering we're selling 348 properties we sold last month. So we're getting through some of that inventory. Some of it's coming off the market. Some of it's obviously selling, but some of it's coming off the market. Whether that's a permanent thing or they intend to put those properties back on the market as we get back into season next year, that remains to be seen. But at least we're moving through some of the more motivated sellers, the folks that actually need to sell their properties. That's where we're seeing these price reductions, because these folks are out there amongst all this inventory. There's plenty of overpriced inventory out there with folks that are not serious, that are not super motivated to sell their properties. And I'm sure some of those are coming off the market rather than make the necessary price reductions. But we'll continue to monitor this. I think that it'll continue to go down for the rest of the summer. And time will tell if they start to go back up as we get into the November and December months later this year. But 2426 was the inventory for this category. And that wraps it up for off-water single-family homes. Let's jump over to everybody's favorite category. That's the Gulf access homes. So homes that are on a body of salt water, essentially a body of water that gets out to the Gulf of America by boat. So it's either on the river or it's on a Gulf access canal. But let's jump into these properties. Okay, so the city of Cape Coral is super well known for our Gulf access real estate. We've got over 440 miles of navigable canals here in the city of Cape Coral, and most of those are Gulf access canals. So we got a tremendous number of these beautiful waterfront single-family homes. So we're going to be specifically talking about the single-family homes on a Gulf access canal or on the river or something like that. So let's start off again with the number of sales, and actually we hit the high point for the year last month. 101 Gulf access homes sold in the month of May. That's up slightly from April's number of 92, and March was 97, so pretty consistent over these months. As you'll notice on this chart, this particular category of property is heavily weighted, at least in terms of the number of sales, in these middle of our main spring and winter season months. So that first and second quarter of the year tends to be where the majority of these sales happen in any given year. So it's no surprise that we're considerably more than we were back in, let's say, October, November, December, January, things like that. But let's once again talk about the first 5 months of the year. Last year at this time, the high point of the year was May in 2023, and we had sold 110 properties back in May of 2024. And May of 2023, 2 years ago, we had only sold 94. So we're sort of in the middle of 2023 and 2024's May numbers. But let's look at the first 5 months and kind of factor all this in. So far this year, we've sold 388 Gulf access single-family homes. Last year, in the first 5 months, we had sold 447. And in 2023, the first 5 months, we had sold 413. So if you just look at if you gauge this as demand for this year versus last year, we are about 59 Gulf access homes off the pace of last year's sales activities, and that represents about a 13.2% reduction in demand for these properties. But let's jump over to the median price, because as you'll notice on this chart, the median price for Gulf access homes, especially when we're only talking about 90 or 100 sales, the median price can go up quite a bit. It can fluctuate from month to month depending on if there's a few more expensive homes that sold versus not less expensive homes. So you kind of have to read between the lines when you're looking at this chart. But take a look at this. This is again a little bit over 2.5 year chart. We're down in May from April's number. May's number, Gulf access single family homes median price was $690,000. So we did fall under the $700,000 mark. April's number was $719,500. Obviously, the overall trend is in the prices are softening. That direction is going prices are descending very, very gradually, and you kind of, again, have to read between the lines to try to figure out exactly what that number might look like. But if you just take $690,000 for May of 2025 and you look at May of 2024, May of 2024, the number was $811,000. Now that may have just been a little bit higher month versus sort of the average, if you average these out. But if we just take that 811 number to the 690 this past month, represents about $121,000 decline in median price, which is about just under 15%. Now, if you go back 2 years ago, in May of 2023, it doesn't seem like that would make sense, but May of 2023's number was less than May of 2024's number. So May of 2023's number was 782,000. And again, that's why I think you have to read between the lines and kind of average these numbers out. But if you just took the 782 for 2 years ago, represents about 11.8% reduction in prices over 2 years. And you know, if you factor all these in together and try to average things out, I think we've probably, over the last 18 months or so, we've probably corrected about 10 to 12%, I think is what the actual number is. So if you looked at a property in this time, you know, January or February of 2024, you could probably expect that property to be selling for about 10 or 12% more than they are right now. So again, high inventory numbers, it just naturally means that we're going to see some softening in prices, but it's a very, very gradual correction, which I think is healthy for this market. But let's look at the inventory, because again, those prices are slowly descending because our inventory is massively high. But we've made some really, really solid progress this month compared to the earlier months of the year. Again, this is properties that are on the market at any given time during the month of May. So some of them came off, some of them sold, some of them expired. But 952 was the number for May of 2025, and that was a significant improvement from April. April was 1,085, and actually it was pretty consistent there for February, March, and April. 1,085 for April, 1,084 for March, and 1,078 for February. So that was kind of our peak, and now we're making some real progress in getting some of these overpriced listings off the market. And I took a look at just this morning, the current actives that are actually on the market at this very moment is 814. So significantly less than that 952 number, but nevertheless, we still got some work to do. And if you look back 12 months ago in May of 2024, we had only 832 properties were active at any given point in May of 2024. So we're still up inventory-wise about 14.4%. And even though we're heading in the right direction, we've got some more work to do before prices will kind of flatten out and start to go back up. If you go back 2 years, back to May of 2023, there was only 570 properties, these Gulf Access homes on the market. So we're still 67% higher in terms of inventory now versus 2 years ago, 24 months ago. So we got some more work to do, but again, we'll see that start to go back down further as we get into these summer months. It happens every single year. We're going to have to be in a wait and see attitude to try to figure out if a lot of these properties that are coming off the market, if they're going off permanently or if they intend to be listed again back in later this year, and as we get into the next season, the 2025-2026 winter and spring season. So tune in every single month. I'll keep you up to speed on what's going on with that. But again, even though these inventory numbers are high, we're heading in the right direction. And if you're a seller in this Cape Coral real estate market, that's really what you want to see. And you want to see a lot more of that as we get into later months of the year. But that does it for Gulf Access Homes. Let's jump over to condos, and then we'll wrap things up with single-family residential homes. Residential lots, single-family residential lots, and then we'll wrap things up with advice for buyers and sellers and finish up. Okay, so condos and townhomes. Just for this category, I'm including all different types of condos and townhomes. You know, high-rise, low-rise, waterfront, not waterfront, condos, townhomes, coach homes, basically anything that's not a single family home, because again, this category is not tremendously big here in Cape Coral, and condos have kind of struggled the last year or two, and we just haven't seen the demand for condos that we have in some of the other categories. And let's jump right into that. Let's Let's take a look at the 2-year chart for the number of sales. And last month, we actually didn't do too terribly bad, at least comparatively last month. We sold 53 condos in the month of May 2025. That's up just 2 from April's number of 51. And actually, we're kind of on par with the last couple of years. May in 2024 last year was actually less than this past month. There was only 43 sales in May of 2024, but you can see the spike right there in 2024. We had a couple of months that they were really high, upwards of 70 properties. And if you could look back 2 years ago in May of 2023, the number was 53, so right even with where we were in 2023. But if you look at the overall consumption of condos in the first 5 months of this year, we've sold 235 total condos and townhomes so far this year in the first 5 months. And last year at this point, we had sold 253, and actually that was right even with what we did in 2023. So 2023, 253 condos sold in the first 5 months. 2024, 253 condos sold in the first 5 months. So our consumption, our demand for condos right now is down just about 7.1% from where we were the last couple of years. And I think there's a few reasons for that. The demand for condos hasn't been there as much as in years past, mainly because the HOA fees are a little bit higher, as you can imagine, with new requirements on some of the mid-rise and high-rise condos for setting aside some reserves and doing some engineering reports every 10 years. That's an added cost that that's translating into higher monthly HOA fees. And of course, just insurance in general is more expensive right now. And since most associations include some form of structural insurance and flood insurance in their monthly fees, that cost obviously goes up as well. So we've just seen a little bit softer condo market than in maybe some of the other categories. But let's jump over and talk about the median price, because I think this 2-year chart really tells a story right here for condos, the median price. And we're talking about a 51 or a 53. The sample size for these condos in any given month is not tremendously big. So when you only have 30 or 40 or 50 condos sell in any given month, obviously you're going to have some fluctuation in what that median price is, which is why you're seeing this kind of spike up and down a little bit. But the overall trend here for the last 2.5 years is prices have been declining. And the median price last month for those 53 condos was $235,500. That's up a little bit from April's number of 231. And actually the low point on this entire chart was March of this year, where it was $222,000. But again, you had a few more expensive condos sell this month versus the last couple of months. It's going to spike up and down. But the bigger picture here is, of course, we're having some softening pricing in the condo market with the inventory and the lack of demand. That's 7% less demand versus the last 2 years. But if you look at this chart going back 12 months ago to May of 2024, the median price was $260,000. This past month was $235,500. So that represents a 12-month decrease in median prices of about $24,500, which equates to about 9.4% just in 12 months. And that kind of holds up for the last 24 months. If you take it back 2 years, the condo prices, the median prices actually tipped out in spring of 2023. Most of the other categories, the high point on the price mark was in 2022, but condos, the median price peaked out in 2023 in the spring. And right 2 years ago, when that was happening, our median price for condos across the board was $295,000. So we're a full $59,500 less than we were 2 years ago. And considering this is a lower dollar category, that equates to about a 20.2% reduction in condo prices in just 2 years. And that's before you even talk about inflation. We've had a few years of heavy inflation. And I think when you stack that on top of this, you might get up to 40% correction so far in the condo market. So I think there's some really good deals to be had out there for condos right now. So if you're a buyer, especially in this lower dollar price range, or maybe if you're even a first-time home buyer and you're looking to try to find something to where you can get into this market at an entry-level price or something around the $200,000 or even less than that, condos are a really good option. You need to, make sure that they're in good shape. You make sure the condo association is healthy and their financials look good. And obviously, you got to pay attention to what those monthly HOA fees are going to be. But you can get into a condo for a really decent price right now, and I'm seeing some really good deals. People are having some really good deals on some condos out there right now in this market. And as we get into the summer season, when things slow down even more, I think if you can find some sellers out there that are a little bit motivated, you can get some decent prices on condos. But let's look at the inventory, because once again, the inventory is coming down in condos like it is in everything else. And here's the 2-year chart. Big dip from April to May, just kind of expected. But we are at 495 total actives on the market at some point during the month of May. Again, that doesn't mean there's 495 properties sitting on the market active right now. It just means that, there was 495 on the market at some point during that month. Some of them sold, some of them came off the market, some of them expired, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at April's number, that was 556. So we're, almost 60 condos are not on the market now versus in the month of April. And actually the peak on this chart was March of this year, where there was 576 properties that were active at some given point during the month of March. So we've come down quite a bit from that peak, and actually we're doing better than we were at this time of the year. This is the only category that has fewer properties on the market now versus May in 2024. May in 2024, there were 500 condos on the market, so we've beat that by 5, which is 1%. So we have 1% fewer condos on the market now versus this time last year, which is good to see for condos, because particularly because this is a softer category, we need to get rid of that extra inventory as much as possible, as quickly as possible, so we can see condo prices kind of flatten out. But of course, if you look back 2 years to May of 2023, there was 345 condos on the market. So we're still up 43.5% over 2 years. Still got plenty of inventory out there for condos, and we need to again keep up the good work that we're doing on the condos and get some of this extra inventory out there. I think we're going to start to see some better numbers on that once a lot of these forced sellers are, either they sell or they get out of the condo market, one way or the other. If we can get some of this overpriced inventory off the market, I think that would help things out quite a bit. And, like everything else, condo demand will come back. Eventually the prices will get to a point where it makes a lot of sense for people to buy condos right now. And I think we're there right now, quite honestly. So if you are a buyer in this, anywhere from, you can get some really good deals on a really nice golf access condo with, a deeded dock and boat slip. You can get those, in the 300s and 400s right now. So definitely some deals to be had out there. But this is the condo inventory. Again, 495 wasn't the total actives right now. There was actually, as of this morning, 438 active condos on the market right now. So it's a little bit less than that 495, but nevertheless, we've got some work to do. And that's the story on condos. So let's jump over to vacant residential lots, and then we'll finish up with some advice for buyers and advice for sellers in this Cape Coral real estate market. Okay, so vacant residential lots in the city of Cape Coral, Florida. We're really going to be focusing on off-water vacant lots, so non-waterfront lots. In any given month, especially for golf access, there might only be 10, 11, 12 golf access lot sales these days. And so it's tough to gain any meaningful insight as to what the pricing trend looks like for those. So we'll focus on off-water vacant residential lots. And here's the number of sales. The sales activity has been going down for the last 2 years. And we only sold 81 lots last month. That's actually up from April's number, was 73. And the previous month, back in March, it was only 61 total residential off-water lots, which was the low point on this chart. But you can see it kind of bounces up and down in any given particular month. But we're noticeably less. There's noticeably less activity now versus the last 2 years. May of 2024, there was 121 lots that sold that month. And back in 2023 in May was 165. So demand for lots have gone down a fair amount. I think that's just the nature of the building costs right now. Building costs are such that with all of the extra resale inventory out there, it's not making as much sense to build a new construction home right now for most people. There's some people that just really prefer that, and they're willing to pay a little bit more to have that new construction home. But there's not a lot of demand at that price point for the new construction home, so the builders aren't building as many, which means they're not buying up any new vacant residential lots to go ahead and put those new construction homes on. But 81 last month, and only 13 of those 81 were south of Pine Island Road, which is kind of the rough dividing mark for between the Northwest and the Northeast and the Southeast and Southwest. It's not totally true technically, but most people who you talk to, that would be sort of the dividing line between the north and south parts of the city. So only 13 were south of Pine Island Road, and those 13 would have central water and sewer. So we're still seeing the vast majority of lot sales occurring north of Pine Island Road in those areas where, frankly, there's just a lot more of the vacant lots left that are available up there, and most of those areas are in well and septic areas, so they are naturally going to be a little bit less expensive than quite a bit less expensive than the lots that are on central water and sewer. And let's talk about that. Let's zip over to the median price chart. That demand's been going down for 2 years, but take a look at this chart. If anything, it's maybe ticked up a little bit, but it's certainly been mostly flat for the last 2 years, the price-wise, for these off-water vacant residential lots. And the median price for those 81 sales last month was $44,500. That's down from April's number of $46,500. And I think the reason that this bounces up and down a fair amount from 1 month to the next is just because you might have a few more of those lots selling south of Pine Island Road in any given month, and that drags that number up a little bit because, again, those central water and sewer lots, in many cases, they're selling for twice what the well and septic area lots are selling for. And in fact, those 13 that sold south of Pine Island Road, the median price for those 13 was $95,000. And if you look north of Pine Island Road, the remaining sales, the northern lots, the median price was $42,500. So literally less than half of what the central water and sewer lots are going for on average. But if you take this chart back again, May of 2024, it kind of spiked up that month last year. Median price overall was $4,800 or $48,500. But if you go back to May of 2023, it was only $41,000. 41,000 back then. Last year was $48,500. So there's really not any meaningful trend in one direction or the other. Like I said, if anything, maybe it's just a little bit more over the course of the last 2 years, but certainly been flat. But we've, again, noticed the demand starting to go down. I think the reason for that is there's just not a lot of forced sellers in the lot market right now. There's not a lot of folks that are sitting out there with lots, and maybe they owe a bunch of money on it and they're losing money every month. It's relatively easy to sit on an overpriced lot listing. In many cases, these lots could sit out there for 300, 400, 500 days, 2 years, 3 years in some cases. It's just easier for people to kind of just sit on those lots. I mean, you're only really paying taxes on them once a year. And there just aren't a lot of forced sellers out there in the lot market versus something's a little more difficult to hold on to, like a single family home where you've got insurance expenses, taxes expenses, you've got maintenance expenses and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's why you're not seeing much movement in the prices of these vacant residential lots versus some more movement in those other property categories. But let's take a look at the inventory, because they were kind of the inverse of what all these other categories looked like in terms of this 2-year chart. Take a look. We only had 979 vacant residential off-water lots on the market at any given point in May of 2025. Again, that doesn't mean there's 979 that are actively out there right now. In fact, as of this morning, there's only 903 vacant residential off-water lots in the entire city of Cape Coral right now. So a little bit less than that 979 number that we have on the chart. But again, we're up a little bit from where we were last year. This chart kind of bottomed out in around this time last year. There was only 897 properties on the market at any given point in May of 2024. So we're up inventory-wise about 9.1% from 12 months ago. And if you look, 2 years ago, 2 years ago in May of 2023, there was 1,359 lots on the market. So even though our demand was up quite a bit back then 2 years ago, and our demand is less now, we have fewer properties on the market now than we did 2 years ago, and that represents a 2-year decrease in inventory of about 28%. So kind of strange, because all the other categories are showing the opposite. They're showing prices kind of softening a little bit, correcting and stuff like that. And I think the lot market has overall just been pretty flat over the course of the last 2 years, but the demand has gone down. And I'm sure we'll probably continue to see inventory creep up a little bit. It took a little dip from April to May, and maybe it'll go down a little more in the next few months, but I think it'll probably creep back up as we get into the later months of the year. But lot market's not in terrible shape right now. They're still selling. It's just taking longer to sell them, and they're still going for a relatively consistent median price. So that's the story with vacant residential lots, and that wraps up all of our categories that we're covering in this month's Cape Coral Real Estate Market Report. So we're going to jump over to advice for buyers in this Cape Coral real estate market, and some advice if maybe you're a seller in a little bit tougher real estate market. So let's get into the advice for buyers right now. All right, so if you're a buyer in the Cape Coral real estate market, what is my advice for you? What do you need to be paying attention to as we get into the summer months of 2025? It's still very much a buyer's market. If you are a buyer in this market, you've been basking in the sun for the recent past, at least the last 18 months or so. And, inventory peaked out for most categories around February, but that February high point was in many cases a 15+ year high for inventory rates here. So even though it's come down a fair amount since February, and I think it'll continue to go down as we get into the later months of the summer, you still have a really, really solid choice of properties out there, and there's still plenty of overpriced listings on the market, and I would just set those to the side. There's plenty of overpriced listings where clearly the sellers aren't motivated enough to get their property sold in today's market, and just set those to the side. Find yourself 3 or 4 properties that are priced reasonably well, and play those sellers off of one another. Try to negotiate yourself the best deal possible. I can tell you that as far as prices go, I would caution you not to view the discount that you get off the list price as the litmus test as to whether or not you're getting a really good deal or not. Because again, when you line up all the properties that have sold, the average right in the middle, the median, is selling for 97.77% of the list price. So these homes are selling once they get priced right. Sometimes it takes price reductions 3 or 4 times to get to that price point where it's actually priced right. But once they're there, they're selling relatively close to that list price. And so if you're focusing on a property that's $100,000 overpriced and you get that property for $80,000 under the list price, you're not getting a good deal. You're still overpaying $20,000 for that. So the amount that you're getting off that list price is not indicative of the deal that you're getting. You could pay full price for something and it could still be a really, really good deal. You just need to pay attention to what the other ones are out there selling for and whether or not comparably you're getting a good price and a good set of terms for that sale or not. And I said the best way I can tell you to get that best price and best terms is to have a choice of 2, 3, 4 properties that you would feel comfortable moving forward with, and then just see which one of them gives you your price first. You can kind of play them off one another. The sellers are really having to fight right now for the fewer number of buyers that are in the market compared to the number of listings that are out there. So enjoy this buyer's market while it lasts. It will eventually turn around. I don't think that's happening next month and becoming a seller's market again, but it probably will. Maybe we have another 12 months of this buyer's market. I don't know. I don't think that prices are going to go down considerably more. There's nothing on the horizon that tells me that we are in for a big crash or anything like that, unless we go into some massive black swan macroeconomic event that really tanks the economy here. I don't think those prices are going to dip considerably more. But they've been correcting. They're going to be soft for the foreseeable future, the rest of this year, I would say. Hopefully we'll get some interest rate relief later this year, and maybe we can get back under that 6%. If that happens, more affordability comes into the market. I think we still have a really healthy demand for properties down here. There's still a lot of properties selling. There's just way too much inventory on the market, which is why the prices have been softening for the last 18 months or so. Enjoy your time while you've got it. Pay attention to what's going on in the market. You can visit here every single month and take a look at what the statistics here in the Cape Coral real estate market are doing. But if I can help you with anything, please give me a call or shoot me a text or something. I'd love to hear about the types of properties that you're looking for and tell you how I can help you out with that. Maybe develop a strategy for you to target the right properties, avoid the pitfalls like the assessments, like the insurance. Maybe higher insurance costs that you're not aware of on one particular property versus another. That's all part of what I do as a buyer's agent. So I would encourage you to reach out to me. I would love to help you. Call, text, or email me anytime. Contact information is right there on the screen. It's also down in the description of the video. But enjoy your time while it lasts, buyers, because you're in a really solid buyer's market right now and people are getting some good deals out there. So I'd love to help you out. Love to hear from you. Give me a call, shoot me a text, whatever it takes. But that's my advice for buyers. Pay attention to the market. It's not going to last forever. Pit sellers off of one another if you can, and enjoy this time while it lasts. Okay, if you're a seller in the Cape Coral real estate market right now, what is my advice to you? What do you need to be paying attention to? Well, it's very clearly still a buyer's market. And it's tough to be a seller out there right now. You really just it comes down to you got to price your property right, and you're not going to get the same price today that you were going to get 2 years ago, obviously, in any category pretty much. Maybe off-water vacant residential lots, maybe is about the same as it was 2 years ago, but even then, the demand is really down right now and inventory is going up. So we do see some light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of these different categories, with the exception of the lots where inventory is maybe creeping up just a little bit. Condos, Gulf access homes, single family off-water homes, all of these other residential categories, we saw inventory kind of peak out around February, and it's been coming down a fair amount since then. And I think inventory will continue to come down as we get into the later months of the summer. And it remains to be seen whether or not that's a long-term trend or if inventory will creep back up. Something tells me that I think our inventory next season, when it does inevitably come up a little bit, is not going to match where we were this past spring. We'll see. Maybe I'll have to eat those words. I don't know, because I didn't expect inventory to go up as much as it did this past season. When we went from December to January, it really peaked up very, very quickly, and I think it was a surprise to a lot of us. And really, because the inventory had been going down in the second and third quarter, in the third and fourth quarter of last year, we kind of thought inventory was settling down a little bit. And what we didn't expect was there was a ton of those properties that had come off the market as we got into June, July, and August, and those sellers had the intentions of putting them back on the market after we got into the new year. So that happened all at once, big explosion of inventory. But the light at the end of the tunnel is we've made a lot of progress coming off that peak, and we'll continue to see inventory go down. Now, the other side of that is the demand's not going to be very strong in the summer months, in the summer and fall months. It never is. Obviously, the reason that people put their properties on the market more in the winter and spring season is because there are more buyers in the market at that given time. So it remains to be seen if how far those inventory levels are going to fall. I don't think they're going to fall enough to turn this market back into a seller's market in any time soon. I think at the very least, we probably got another 12 months of a buyer's market, and hopefully we'll get those interest rates under 6%, and that'll create some affordability, and more of those buyers will come into the market and get some of this extra inventory off the market. But if you are a seller out there and maybe you're struggling, you've been on the market for a long time and you're not getting any offers, chances are you're overpriced, and frankly, you just need to get your property priced right, and you need to have it looking as best you can. There's a ton of properties still out there, even though we've made some progress on inventory. There's a ton of properties out there on the market right now, and these buyers are they're a little bit attention deficit right now, because they're going to see these properties and there's 20 or 30 of them out there that they can choose from. So even if your property is priced reasonably well and it looks really nice, if they're going to see that first, and by the time they get to that 15th, 16th property, they've forgotten all about yours. So it's really much of a numbers game. As long as you're priced right and you're getting good showing activity, it's going to be really frustrating to have 30 and 40 people go through your house without an offer, but that's kind of par for the course right now. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of activity, showing activity on our listings, and not as much offering activity. So you just need to kind of keep your chin up and grin and bear it, because you're going to have to play a numbers game on there. And as long as you're getting people through that house, you will eventually get some offers. And hopefully once you do get an offer, you'll fight as best you can to keep that offer and try to get it through to make it a sale. Because like I said, strong buyer's market right now. I mean, if they take property taxes away, the governor keeps talking about taking property taxes away. If they manage to actually get that done, I think it turns back into a seller's market really, really fast. But that remains to be seen if they're going to get that thing actually done, or if that's just a lot of political bluster they're talking about right now. But nevertheless, get your property priced right. Make it look as attractive as possible. I say this every month, but that first 5 seconds when those buyers drive up to your house and walk through the front door, if it doesn't smell good, look good, you know, all of that stuff, that experience, that first 5 seconds of the buyer walking into your property is not a really good experience on multiple different senses. They're going to shut down. They're going to decide whether or not they want to buy your property probably within the first 15 seconds or something of walking in that house. And it's a lot easier to say no to a house, especially when you're seeing 20 and 30 of them, versus being truly impressed and saying, wow, I can see myself here. So make sure your property looks good, smells good, and more than anything, just make sure your property's priced right. If you need help with that, I would love to help with you, as long as we can price it right, because I do need to sell these properties. And if you're going to stick to a higher price than I think that property is worth, it doesn't really make sense for me to take your listing. I've had to turn some listings down in the last 12 months or so, and I hadn't really done that prior to this very much at all. But you know, they're just not selling if you're not pricing it right. So price your property right, and then make sure it looks good. If I can help you with that, contact information is right there on the screen. Call, text, or email me. Would love to hear from you. Love to hear about your property. I'll give you the straight numbers on what it's going to take to get that thing moved. And if that's good with you, then maybe we can move forward and getting your property on the market and trying to get it sold as quickly as possible for the largest amount of money. But would love to hear from you. Contact information is right there. Call, text, email me. But sellers, it's a little tough market, and it has been for a while. But keep your chin up. It'll turn around eventually. Okay, so let's wrap this June 2025 Cape Coral real estate market update video. Let's wrap it all up, summarize it, and put a nice little bow on it. What's the state of the market right now? We're still very much in a buyer's market. Demand has been somewhat high, but not on pace with what it has been the last 2 years. Overall, I think we said we're down about 7% in terms of the number of sales that we're seeing in this first 5 months of the year versus the first 5 months of 2024 and 2023. So there's fewer buyers in the market. It's still a healthy amount of demand. There's still plenty of people that want to be here in Southwest Florida, and especially Cape Coral. And so we're still seeing properties move, but we just got a lot of inventory out there on the market, and we've made some progress. It kind of peaked out in February, and it's come down a lot. The inventory has come down a lot in the last month or two. Definitely from April to May, we saw a big dip in inventory, and hopefully that continues. But we still ultimately have way too many properties on the market, way too many overpriced properties on the market. You need to get those off the market. If you are a seller and you're not getting any activity, you got to either price your property right or get it off the market. The quicker that we can get some of this extra inventory off the market, the faster that buyer's market's going to turn back into a seller's market. Still plenty of people that want to be here. Interest rates, hopefully later this year, will come down. Maybe we even get under 6% again for mortgage interest rates. And if that happens, that'll help affordability out quite a bit. That'll help to turn things around faster. But overall, you know, we're not in crisis mode or anything like that. I think a lot of folks come in from out of the state, and maybe they've been watching some of the more clickbaity YouTube videos about how the sky is falling down here, and it's $20,000 a year to insure an average house down here, and half the cities are falling into the ocean, and everybody's running for their lives. We've still added more people to the state of Florida last year by far than we lost, and that's in spite of having a couple of bad hurricanes and all that kind of stuff, which doesn't happen every year. So still plenty of demand here for Southwest Florida and Cape Coral, and we'll continue to have a really strong real estate market. We're just in a natural correction right now, and if you're a buyer, You know, you're out there, you can get yourself a pretty good deal right now. If you're a seller, you're still better off than you were in like 2019. So if you've owned this property for more than 5 or 6 years, you're still ahead of the game. You just can't sell those properties for what you could a couple of years ago. 2022 and 2023 are long gone. And you just need to get a little more serious as a seller and get that thing priced right and get it moved. So tune in every single month here. I'll give you the skinny on what's going on, give you these statistics every single month, and let you know what's going on with that inventory. We're going to continue to watch that pretty closely. And like I said, I fully expect it to continue to go down until probably at least the fourth quarter. That's what happened last year. We had a lot of that go down. And then for whatever reason, it just kind of spiked up from December to January. So there was a lot of people taking their properties off the market with the intention to put them back on in January. I don't think we're going to have that big spike, as big of a spike. It'll certainly go up as we get into the main season, just because there's more buyers and there's more sellers in the market. There's more activity in the first and second quarter of the year. But I think hopefully we can make some really, really good progress on pulling some of this extra inventory off the market as we get into the summer and fall months of 2025. And I can't believe we're here almost at the end of the second quarter of 2025. It's gone by so fast. But tune in every single month. I would love to have you here. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you can see not only these monthly market report videos, but all of the weekly videos that I do. We're just looking at some really good real estate. We're looking at some really good, useful information on things if you're interested in Southwest Florida or Cape Coral, or you're moving to Fort Myers or something. I think you'll get a lot out of these videos. Again, I try to give you a lot of great information. I put a lot of time and effort into these things just because I know if I can do that for you and provide some value to you, then I know you're going to remember me when the time does come when you do need a realtor here in Southwest Florida, whether you're buying or selling a property. So my contact information is right there on the screen. I would love to hear from you. And reach out anytime. Call, text, or email me. I would love to tell you how my team and I can help you out, whether you are a buyer or seller. And thank you for being here. I know these are longer videos, and I appreciate your time, but I'll see you in the next video here in just a few days.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding.